The lights come up, the camera focuses. You are somewhere between, and the reality of your life is on show. We feel compelled to put on a show all the time, and on the stage of life, it is filled with some award winning performances that most will never get to see on stage. Not all of our stories are glamorous. I am Philip Clarke. Join me today as we unearth the many roles of real people who share their journey and the lessons learned on that journey. Welcome to Lights, Camera, Real Life.
Hey guys, it's me again. Welcome again to another episode in season 2. Yes, season 2 of Lights, Camera, Real Life. And I'm very excited. Let me tell you something, man. I am very excited because guess what? I have with me today, wow, a very special person, a very special person. I mean, I feel even more special because I was allowed to really given the opportunity to talk to this man. No, trust me. No, I'm not lie. No, I really feel that way. And today on our show, may I get into it because I don't want make no wait so long. Today, I have on Lights, Camera, Real Life, our second guest for season 2. His name is Ano Okera. Yes, Ano. What's going on in?
I'm good. How are you?
I am excellent and all the better for seeing you. And let me tell you something. As I said before, I feel very privileged to be in your presence because people, him not talk, him not do interview, and me, I come interview him, I come have a chat. Lord of mercy, give me at least 40 minutes. I'm time. So I know I had a little introduction here prepared for you. I just want you to give me your permission so I can go ahead, sir. I hope I do you justice.
Go ahead. That was amazing. That was so amazing. Thank you very much. I'm very humbled and very honored to share with you today. Thank you for having me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Ano Okera is an actor, writer, and producer. And I just want you to pay attention to this. He is very popularly known for writing and producing his work on the American Street Mural in Harlem. And guess what now? It was the winner of the Best Documentary Short at the New York International Film Awards in 2021. Very powerful documentary. You all need to go and watch that. Very powerful. He is also, I'm going to make him talk a lot about who he is, but you might want to know that he was cast in the premiere of Bob Marley's musical, Marley, I think that was in 2015 as Don Letts. He will correct me if there's any other thing that I need to say, but I just want to leave it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to a Jamaican who has been a light on the Broadway scene all over the diaspora. And today, I'm going to talk to us about that journey and the lessons learned on that journey. People, help me welcome Mr. Ano Okera to the stage.
I'm not coming on stage today. I refuse.
So Ano,
hi everybody. Yes.
I wanna go into the name Ano Okera because I find it very, very interesting. A matter of fact, I find it very sexy as actually, I like the way how it slithers off my tongue. Ano Okera. It's so easy to call. And I want to know the history of that name.
It's not that, I wouldn't say it's a glamorous thing. I'm raised very, very Rastafarian and Christian. And my Rastafarian father decided that he wanted to name his kids for the very first Afro-Jamaicans. So my name is an Akan name.
Oh,
It means my second child, a likening unto God. No, I'm not my mother's second child, so that's a bit of a discrepancy, but that is my father's truth.
mhm.
So I'm not going to argue with him. And yeah,
Okay.
that's just my name. Yeah,
And Akan is a tribe in Ghana.
yeah.
Oh,
Most of the early Afro Jamaicans, a lot of the Cromanti tribe,
mhm.
they're from the Akan region.
Right, right. Wow, love it. I like a man who is
Thank
connected
you.
to his roots. So speaking of your roots,
Mhm.
you grew up in Jamaica. You now reside in the UK. Jamaica has been a very inspirational and spiritual experience for a lot of us. But can you tell us a little bit about, when you started as a young artist, brilliant artist? I think some people would call you a triple threat. He can act, he can sing, he can certainly dance, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm.
And he started off with a group called Little People. I think it was Kathy Levy and Little People. How did that impact you and develop you as a man? Because you started very early, and so you had that opportunity to just grow. And you're still doing what you've always done. You're still in the art, you're still in entertainment, you're still in production. How did that impact you, your early beginnings? And what lessons would you
Uh,
say you could pass on to us from that experience?
well, where do I start? um,
That man.
I was very much a child. I was at Mona Primary when we got the call to audition for this choir. I think this was in 1988, so of course I'm aging myself here. Um, and there were only two of us that were sent from Mona Primary. My father, who was really excited about it, he was the one who taught me do re mi fa sol la ti do. Took
Hmm.
me to my audition, and
Wow.
I think for a good chunk of my entire experience as a child performer, he was really the stage parent, and he was always there with me. And I will actually say that I I wasn't I always felt safe because my dad was always kind of close, which was good.
Yeah.
Um,
Very important.
so I very important. So I went and I auditioned for the Little People Choir. It was round about that time that I met Kathy Levy and Paulette Bellamy.
Mhm.
And one would then say that the rest is history because um, I was one of the young kids in that choir. A lot of those guys I'm still friends with to this day. I don't see them every day. We don't talk every day, but when we do get a chance to catch up, it's a really good time all the time, and we love each other a lot still. Um, Little People Choir became Little People and Teen Players Club in 1989, and
Wow.
then we moved from this whole just being just being in music sort of vibe to this whole experience where we're also dabbling more with musical and live performance. um, I discovered around about then that dance was a very, very natural language for me. So yes, I pretty much spent most of my childhood as a singer, actor, dancer. I was always really one of the youngest in the group. So I will say that I have a lot of bigger brothers and sisters, and by extension, a lot of their parents as adopted parents,
Right.
right? Aunties and uncles. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much where I got my start. I mean, we went from there into high school. I went to George's, St. George's, shortly after that. Um, there, one thing happened that would haunt me for my entire teenage life was that while I was at Mona Primary, I did this reading song, reading "Make It a Full Man" song with Joseph Brown, and I swear you that it haunted me in both positive and negative ways. Because
Why?
when you're at a boys, because when you're at a boys' school,
Mm-hmm.
like um, you know, just everybody always have something to say. But I
Yeah.
also formed some really cool connections as a result of that. I think a lot of the friends that I met initially at George's wanted to be friends with me because they wanted to get to know. They weren't. It wasn't just about my talent for them. That started out that way, yeah. But um, one of them in particular, who I'm still very close to, is is yeah, he saw me singing. He was like, that kid, and
Mm-hmm.
and next thing you know, Anajabel and her friends. So we have pretty much like maintained our friendship from then until now. And
So
what happened after
for
that?
you at the time,
Yeah,
especially at St. George's,
yeah.
were you afraid of being seen in the spotlight on the stage as a boy, or were there any kind of inhibitions there or hang-ups, or you were just you
A
did
lot, a lot of people feel, a lot of people feel don't believe me when I say this, but I think I'm naturally more of a shy person. I think I've learned to be okay with being out there and being on. Um, I realize that a lot more now that I'm older and I just don't really want to see anybody. But
a lot of us, my friend. Wally Powie. Wall of the I saw the wall of
but
whiskey.
right, but but I have never really been the sort of person that have moved with fear. I don't necessarily think that fear is part of my DNA. I'm just keeping it real. So so I I knew from a very, very early age that the stage was home. So any opportunity that I got to be home was just that. I was just doing what I was put here to do. I was just living in my purpose.
Love it.
I
I
knew
love
that.
that.
I've known that, and it wasn't so. The engagement with people, I think I always knew that that was part of the responsibility of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
How performance can be transformative um, when people are trying to escape their normalcy, so they can just be moved, or just, however, temporarily, just you know escape their whatever issues it is that they're having. And being a catalyst for that as a performer, I think, even as a child, was a very, very important thing for me, and I took that very, very, very seriously. So
Yeah.
much so that I was a bit annoying, I think, for some of um, my colleagues, because
Yeah,
I
because
was
you were
just
way
so
ahead.
on.
You
Yeah.
were way ahead. You were confident. This thing led to you being so confident, being so accepting of yourself and your dad. Your dad, you said something about your dad being there made you feel safe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is dad. You know what I mean? So of course I'm going to feel safe if dad is there. But there were also a lot of parents around um, that also reinforced that, and I think to a huge degree, one, I could say that you know, Auntie Kathy, or Miss Levy, as we would affectionately call her,
Mhm.
was very, very much a parent too.
Yeah.
for me at least.
But how
Um,
important is a child's biological father? We're talking about fathers now. How important is a child's biological father to the
hmm.
early stages of their lives? What is it for you?
I mean, I think because I've always had that. It's not that I take it for granted or anything, because I don't. Um, I've not known what that experience. That's been my experience. I don't know what it's like to not have that.
Mhm.
Um, I think that conversely, there are people in my experience who haven't really had their dads around. I think that some of them have been better off for it, while others um, haven't quite done so well for it. You know,
Mm,
so I think it's it can look different based on the circumstance. Um, and of course, fathers don't always have to be biological. So
true,
there's
true,
also that. Yeah.
true, for real.
But fortunately for me, my dad was present, and
And so he
I guess every
supported you.
child really needs community, huh?
Yeah, he supported you all throughout your, what I would call now, purpose, because we're not talking career now, because you found your purpose from a very early age. And this just made you walk in a particular path.
I think that it's very, I can say 100% yes to that. Um, I've never been in conflict about who I am because my dad really reinforced that. I think more than my mom, he actually reinforced that.
Mm.
Even when I didn't want him to, he reinforced it. Because as children, sometimes you want to break away from um, the mirror that's your parents. You want to sort of see yourself very, very differently. You want to
Right,
explore the world and expand what you feel your reality should be. And, you know, sometimes you just don't want to hear what your parents have to say. But um, I think that the voices that I hear in my head still are firstly my mom and my dad.
mhm,
Um, and I think a huge chunk of why I've had the drive I've had, or I've gotten through the darker periods of my experience, has been because I've not been in conflict about my parents' love or feeling love,
yeah.
and just little things that they'd say or do, So yeah,
What are some of those things
yeah.
that you
Hope I answered the question.
What are some of those things
I knew you were gonna ask. Uh, one of the things is, this is very, very interesting. I don't really do validation a lot. I don't. Um, my mom used to always say, ignore ignorance.
Ah,
you know, and I think like there was just no other way to put it. Like there just aren't some things that just are just not relevant to who you are, where you are right now.
mhm.
And focusing on you will make more sense. I'll always hear my dad saying, if you fail to prepare to fail, or some shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
And
man.
that's one of the things. I mean, there are a bunch of things that he's always saying, inclusive of humble yourself, my youth. And it always was weird for me because I'm not a humble person.
Ah!
Um, I'm not going to like try. I'm not going to pretend with you like, oh my God, I'm this very, I'm not. Um,
Ah,
I would say I'm more like my father in that regard. He's
Does your
kind of
bad like
a
that?
big personality and very eccentric and
Ah.
very loving. So I don't necessarily think by our nature we we don't we're very okay with
So
collaboration
let me
and
ask you something now.
other jazz.
How do
Yeah.
you reconcile that big personality that you speak of with that person who is also shy and reserved?
Um, I've always had an outlet, right? I've always had I've always had the stage and performance as an outlet for me. You know, as a performer, you can become many things. You can explore all of those aspects of yourself that you wouldn't necessarily or ordinarily be given an opportunity to explore. So there are lots of things that I've done, you know, while embodying different characters that I don't need to do anymore because I've done that on stage so many times. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
totally
like,
understand.
like, it, so there's, of course I'm jumping forward. There's
No, that's fine.
there's this one role. There's this one role that I played, right? And I legit played that role for more than 2 years. And every night, every night, 8 nights a week, every performance, um, I had to wear 6-inch heels. I had to literally like do some like backflip trick
Whoa!
crap in a 6-inch heels. And the thing is, like, a lot of guys, um, you know, a lot of guys like dressing up, and taking on that feminine persona. I have absolutely no desire.
Exactly.
Like, not.
Been there, done that, honey.
Listen, man, I remember one night. But as a guy, you can sweat, right? I remember one night I was on stage and we're like, and it was just hot as balls. And I just felt my eyelashes just loose and then it just fell.
Oh dear.
And I looked down and my music, because band was on stage and the music director look up and I'm like, the eyelash fall right on him hand while I'm play.
Oh.
And it was just hilarious. So like for me, the way that I sweat and just what I had to go through to do that, but I'm so okay in my own skin as me. So I mean, that's a stand-up course. That's just one random example because that's a lot more that's a more tricky conversation to have. It's just an example. You know what I mean?
Comfortable in your own skin, and that's beautiful. Comfortable. You get to live so many different lives on stage. You have no desire to act out anything in real life. Speaking of that, have you ever had a role? Have you ever played a role that somehow mirrors or gets you to grapple with some things that you're going through in your real life?
I think on some level, I think on many levels, sorry, I wouldn't say that there's just one role that's done that. Okay. I think that there are a number of roles that do that, that have done that, that's allowed me to really reconcile some of the things that I thought I dealt with that I hadn't dealt with. I don't perform full-time these days. It's a very big choice I've made. A lot of people are very, very angry with me for that, but I'm not doing that for them. I'm living my life. And these days, I write films and TV shows and audio dramas full time. By natural progression, I'm now creating a lot of the work that I would like to see, that I would like to experience, where we can actually create worlds where there are more people who actually look like me, talk like me. I don't want to compromise the way I speak as a Jamaican to Hollywood this or Hollywood that. So it was important for me to come to the UK to do an MA in script writing, so I can properly lay out how the way I speak should be authenticated on a page. And so for me, I think where I am now is I am forcing myself, not necessarily just to rectify things I've been through, but to also put on the page what my mom's experience might have looked like, what my great grandmother's experience could have looked like, what kind of stuff must it have been like for my dad, who was a teenage father. You
Yeah.
know, how did that derail his dreams?
Yeah.
So like, I think for me, the responsibility has shifted. Um, it all looks different now, but yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Oh, yo,
Even if I did.
yeah, man. Listen to me, ladies and
Okay, good,
gentlemen. Yeah,
good.
people. We're talking to Ano Okera. Ano Okera, actor, writer, producer, and trust me, I'm gonna drop some things here today. And I mean, I'm just listening and just being enamored by all of what he's saying, and I'm just being inspired. Ano, I want to go back to when you transitioned from Jamaica to the States. How did that happen, and what impacted that?
Well, before I even jump into that, I will say that we moved from Little People to Ashe, performing arts ensemble. I think it's important for me to say that who I am, as a performer, was hugely reinforced by both being in Little People and Ashe. Me owning myself, me looking at the possibilities that exists as a performer, I attribute to Kathy and to Paulette Bellamy and to Joseph Robinson. And I have to really lay that on the table and really just honor them in that way, because if they didn't exist, I would not have found the courage to really transition to New York in the way
Beautiful.
that I did. Now, I left Jamaica. Well, first of all, it was challenging. First, it was challenging to leave Jamaica. I'm from very humble beginnings.
Just to say,
We didn't talk. We didn't.
guys, that Joseph Robinson was the founder of the Ashe Performing Arts. That I know
Joseph and Paulette.
Joseph and Paulette
Paulette,
Bellamy.
yeah.
They were the founders
Yes.
of the Ashe Performing Arts in Jamaica. Yes.
Yes.
And we're looking at listening to one of the products of that.
Of the founding member, and it's funny. It's really interesting to say things like I was a founding member of Little People, or I'm a founding member of that. But I was, I'm a founding member of the institutions that were created, and it's just so cool.
And guys, him don't look like 20. So nobody thinks that I want big man. Yeah, I want big man, but I don't want big man. Him don't look like 20 yet.
Parents' youth. Yeah, the curse of my parents' youth. I'm very grateful for my parents' youthful appearances. But it's just so cool to actually see Conroy and Michael Holgate really carrying on the legacy. I'm so proud of them and just really excited about how they're carrying that on and the ways that they're actually leaving this really big impact. I decided that I was going to leave Jamaica to go to New York because I'm gonna perform. And that was that. I mean, I wasn't necessarily. I mean, at that point, I had already.
You know what I just remembered?
Well,
I just remembered when you said a while ago, I was just gonna perform. I remember, fame. I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly.
Fly. Yeah. I think what's interesting is that Jamaica is still such a very tiered place in how people exist in their class systems. I say it like that because I was recently there and I couldn't help seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly because when I was leaving from where I was leaving to go down to Augustown to visit my family, I had to pass through the military paroling the community, and just also having to rectify with the fact that I'm kind of saddened that those kids that are living in Augustown now will always grow up with feeling like second-class citizens, whether we want to call it that or not. I didn't have to go through that. So it's just it's challenging to rectify. But I say all of that to say that a lot of my friends left school knowing that they were going to go to this university and that university because mommy and daddy were going to pay for it. Or if they, you know, were competitive academically enough, they got scholarships to go to these places and that places. There weren't a lot of things in place for children who performed. And there weren't necessarily a lot of people preparing those kids who performed to explore those kinds of careers, you know? So I followed suit with friends of mine who left, who had help from their parents. While my parents gave me an abundance of love, them not from a very, very, very wealthy background. Yeah. So I had to make a lot of things work. And I won't necessarily like go into a lot of that. But what I will say is that I left Jamaica with $400 after I pay everything else I need to pay. And really didn't prepare my parents that I was actually going to leave. I just left. I didn't tell anybody bye. And made it work. Now, what was interesting about my initial experience, of course, I'm glossing over a lot, is that what was great about my experience from Little People and Ashe was that there was nothing that those guys in New York could teach me about stagecraft.
Yeah.
Because I had already learned how to master it while being a teenager.
Jamaica.
And so a lot of the auditions that I did were effortless. You know, I pretty much did all the shows I wanted to do. We didn't have Facebook or any of them things there at that time. It was, we were pretty much just getting into starting MySpace, I think. God, I'm aging like that.
Don't say it.
But I think I haven't really spoken about a lot of the things I've done. So a lot of Jamaicans don't know about a lot of the things that I've done, but I was adamant about living my life on my terms and living my dreams. Now, listen, that though easy when you're an artist, I jump from show to show to show, but that's what I wanted to do. And I refused to apologize to anybody for living in my truth. I was living in my truth. I'm still living in my truth. And I'm still finding solutions every day. But it actually has gotten much better. And I'm excited about all the things that are in front of me. New York was a great experience. Learned a lot. And now I'm in London. So learning a lot.
So in New York, did you do only musicals or you did a variety of theatrical productions?
I did a lot. I did a whole lot. I did a bunch of shows, including West Side Story and Rent and All Shook Up and Hello Dolly and Dreamgirls and others. As you rightfully said, the last show that I did was Marley in 2015. And by that point, I actually was not performing. I said yes to that because I never ever had the privilege of doing a show where I was seeing Hope Road or Old Hope Road or this or that, the streets I used to pass every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I didn't quite walk away from that experience feeling full. And I knew then that it was important for me to really show up in a very, very different way. And so I decided in 2015 that it was time for me to actually write. Mm-hmm. My mom has been saying to me all this time, why don't you write? Just write. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, are you nuts? Why? Why would I do that? But I realized that writing felt more to me like dance and music felt. Or feels beautiful. To me. They're like primary, it's like primary language. And the way I approach that is so polyrhythmic. So being able as a writer to not just screenwrite, like I can screenwrite, I can write audio dramas, I can write musicals or plays, and I'm trained to do all of it. It's like learning to do ballet or modern or jazz, or it's the same thing. So it just kind of, and even as a director, just the dance that a director does behind the scenes, it feels like choreography in the way it all just comes together in the ways that you have to hone in on how you're specifically getting what's intended in each scene or in every moment.
So would you say you found your niche? Would you say?
I mean, I am living in my purpose. I am definitely where I'm supposed to be.
Love it.
Like I was one of those children in Augustone that grew up in front of the TV knowing every single commercial. To this day, I can sing most of the commercials from my childhood.
Oh,
go figure, right?
I can imagine.
Don't ask. but I've been in love with screencraft since I was a child, and I grew up in that golden age of HBO dramas and thrillers, and I think so much of that became film therapy for me at times when I needed therapy. And I didn't know back then that I was actually preparing myself for where I am right now. I need a healthy love for TV to write screenplays, a healthy love for theater to actually engage with theater. So I am definitely where I'm supposed to be. I think I got a little exhausted, not a little, a lot. I got very exhausted with the machine of being a performer. I didn't want to be there for anybody's entertainment anymore. There are many horror stories that comes with being a performer and really like protecting your mental health and well-being through all of it, especially when you're far away from your family. New York wasn't an easy place to be because I was so far away from my family, and I was mostly always the only person of color everywhere I was. And, this sudden awareness of my Blackness was new for me because it's not what I had to rectify while I was growing up as a child performer in Jamaica.
My friends.
So there's so much of...
My friends, people, we're talking to Ano Okera, and he is, just letting us in just a little bit into his life as a writer, actor, producer. But I want to we're focusing now more on his writing. Ano, you said something earlier about wanting to see more people like yourself, like us, in stories.
Yeah.
Why is that so important to you?
I mean, listen, over the past 3 years, we've lost people like Jackie Guy, Bert Rose, Pat Wright, Patrick. We've been losing a bunch of some of Jamaica's foremost cultural icons, a lot of whom have actually kind of raised me. Any one of them there you could actually like make a scene study from.
Oh yes.
I mean, they were these vibrant,
especially Bert.
Listen to me, the man. And I'll never call myself a comedy writer because I don't need to be. Just the dialogue alone from a Jamaican household is so vibrant, and a lot of the times you have to take bad things and make joke.
Let me tell you something.
And it's I just, it would be so cool to see more of that. Luckily for me, while in New York, and I'm a big history nerd, I had the privilege of just doing a lot of research, just about a lot of Jamaican contribution, you know, whether it's to Jamaica or around the world. I had no idea that a lot of how would you, what's the best word to put it? A lot of our Pan-African ideologies were built on the shoulders of Marcus Garvey and people like Amy Ashwood Garvey and Amy Jack
Yes.
Garvey. Like, yeah, so like the thing is, like, what those Jamaicans were doing in New York for Black people who were at that time refugees of terror, who pretty much were escaping certain deaths in the South to find new opportunities in places like Harlem, was just so incredible to just read. I mean, we're talking about like job opportunities for, you know, people who didn't necessarily have options, you know, working class people. I'm not talking about the educated bunch. I didn't know that Claude McKay was the first published African American poet in the United States.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't know that carrying on the legacy of Pan-Africanism, Amy Ashwood would literally like not just be in the space that she was with Marcus and the UNIA, but she was also contributing to the legacy of performers coming out of that time, the New Federal Theater, the Lafayette Players, like all those guys that, you know, she fundraised so much money so that those guys, I'm talking about Paul Robeson, the Josephine Bakers, those guys that we look to, you know.
And Marcus
There was a
Garvey,
Jamaican.
Marcus Garvey was
There
the
was
one
a
who actually,
Jamaican there.
yeah, Marcus Garvey was the one who actually, you know, gave Louise Bennett her career.
You see what I'm saying? So like, so I mean, and even like taking that from there to come back here, like it was Amy that pretty much while in London, sort of forced the British government into an inquiry, brought Norman Manley over to sort of like be the barrister chairing that, when what's his name, Kelso, was murdered. You know what I mean? So like there's the contribution of Jamaicans worldwide is just so much. It's so far reaching, so much so that years later, a lot of Americans are enjoying their civil rights, because years before there was a Jamaican walking down the street in a big parade exemplifying this whole concept of Black pride. I mean, back at that time, can you imagine how ridiculous it must have looked to all those people who actually called it ridiculous? But when you think about what that might have done for the consciousness of people who needed to feel uplifted,
absolutely,
you really get a sense of why now we say things like Black Lives Matter. What Marcus Garvey was saying back then was Black lives have always mattered.
Always.
And I am Black and proud. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I realized in that moment that that I'm from that kind of like that kind of legacy, you know what I'm saying? And that it just isn't enough for me to just be on stage kicking up my foot and I sing out my throat all and I get clapped every night.
You're right.
Not taking anything away from anyone who loves what they do. But I have earned the right to say what I'm saying. Sorry.
You're writing now a story on the Maroons, right?
Yeah, I was
Tell us
hired to
about
write the
that.
pilot. Well, I was hired to write the pilot for a new adventure series called The Maroons. I can't say a lot. I can say that I'm working on that project. But it's kind of really, really cool. It's a big deal, and it's I'm very I'm freaked out by it, to be honest with you, because the entire story is so much bigger than me. But they were adamant that they wanted to hire a Jamaican. They wanted a fresh perspective. Luckily for me, I'm trained and I love history. So the challenging parts have been, where do you find that intersection? I think we all have a closeness to the stories of our ancestors, and we all want it to be right. So I think a big part of my responsibility has been in, where does an intersection sort of exist in how I bring all those stories together to really tell a human story about the ways that Black families have been disenfranchised, how we're reclaiming what can feel like home for us. And really just sort of like tell a story about resistance, about people who really revolutionized what we know as guerrilla warfare. It was happening in freaking Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? So like, I get to be the person who explores that with the creators, and then actually then sit in a writing room with other writers who I'll have a hand in saying who comes to that room, which I'm so excited about, and really create magic. You know what I mean? So
Hear the people, a Jamaican making waves in the diaspora.
Oh God, I wouldn't call it that. But thank you.
I know. When you
yes, Philip,
thought about this, I said, what would you like your legacy to be? I mean, when you look at the fact that this story that you're writing now, the Maroons especially, and the likely impact that will have on the pride and confidence of Jamaicans, not just living in Jamaica, but abroad as well, what would you want your impact to be, your legacy to be?
Well, first of all, I'm committed to getting the story right, to getting the story I'm telling right. I think that there's so many contradicting histories that exist of what it is, and understandably so. Right. We were under colonial rule at that time. Excuse me. But what I would love is to be a bit of a machine for the different ways that cinematic experiences that exemplify our stories really are existing most prominently beyond places like Hollywood, and really like on every streamer. I think could be a really wonderful kind of legacy. I think every Jamaican child has a memory of some adult that actually made them feel like they could be whatever it is that they wanted to be.
Yes.
And I think if we got the chance to, we would probably tell those stories, right? I get to, as a filmmaker, collaborate with filmmakers from all over the world to actually illuminate our stories, not capitalize on our stories like I think a lot of people are doing, but to really just sort of like tell our stories and tell them right.
Yeah, man.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's what I want my legacy to be. I wanna, There's so many of our stories. I would like. Yeah.
There's so many of our stories that.
There's so many of our stories, man, and like, just to just like look at it at every level, and it just would be really cool to even like look at just the intercontinental links.
Yeah. Yeah.
of how our stories kind of
Right.
travel, and then how they then sort of like leave impact where they land, especially. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Excellent.
And when I do start performing again, because I will, it will be things I want to do that I'm choosing to do. I'm not performing because I need to. I'm performing because I choose to be, because
right.
for me performing has always been home, right? And I think the business of it, the machine of it, took away that joy from me, and I really got burned out and just hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to sort of fall in love with it again on my terms. I'm not going to talk about anything regarding that, but there are definitely
well,
there are
just to
definitely one or,
say,
there are
just to
definitely one or
say
two things.
that I am
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing you back on the stage.
Uh,
I'm also looking forward to seeing your stories all over the screens everywhere I go.
yeah,
I mean, I know, man, I put in a
appreciate
little word for myself, man. I can't get them like roll out, you know.
that.
I just
Well,
saying,
I
and
mean,
I
listen,
just saying.
listen. I'm just saying, like, we both know you're a very talented actor. I mean, we both know. I
Thank
mean, whether
you.
it's public knowledge or not, we both know that you are very, very much in a dear friend of mine's work that's currently being,
Thank you.
So I mean, so the thing is, Philip, you never know what kind of doors those things open.
Yeah,
But I think a lot more of us are in places where we get to actually like look at how we want to locate the work and the kinds of
absolutely.
people we want to work with. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited about what the future looks like,
Great.
and just really collaborating with
Yeah.
more Jamaicans. We want to
Friends,
do more.
my friends out there, my goodness, we're talking to a great Jamaican. His name is Ano Okera. Ano Okera, who you haven't seen. You haven't seen the best of him yet. The best is yet to come. And
Lord have
Ano, I
mercy.
want to thank you so much. He's clearly has had a lot of influence of Jamaica and Jamaicans on his art and his work. And I
Definitely.
want to thank you so much for being with me today, for just sharing with me and, allowing me into your space. But before
My
you
absolute
go,
pleasure, Philip. Thank you.
you talk a lot about young people. You talk about your time in Augustown, Jamaica. You talk about your Rastafarian father. You talk about your mother and the things that you remember about her. You obviously loved and lived your childhood living your truth. If one
Yeah, I mean,
person,
is there a way to not?
well, well, this is the thing. There are not many people like you out there, so that's why I have to make sure I introduce to them so that they can be better people. If you were to say one thing to a young person listening to you right now, what is that one thing you'd want them to know?
Don't make anybody put any limits on you. I remember when I asked someone to give me a recommendation because I was applying for a university I wanted to apply for. And unbeknown to me, the recommendation letter said, and I quote because I still have it, Ano Okera Harris is an adequate talent.
Mhm.
Now, I looked at the letter, I looked up, and then I looked back at the letter. And I said to the letter, when have I ever been an adequate talent? I closed the letter and I put it back in the envelope, or envelope as we say in Jamaica. And luckily for me, I had a plan C and D. And it's a good thing somebody did open the envelope. Is what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it was very it was very, I think at the time, heartbreaking, because this is someone that I spent every day with, someone who I considered one of my nurturers and teachers. And I think what was interesting about that is those guys saw me very, very specifically in the ways it served them. But my parents always saw me as boundless and nurtured me in that regard. So I never felt like anything was beyond me or impossible. And so what I will say to every single child in Jamaica is you don't have to live in the boxes that people choose to put you in. You can be whatever you want to be. And I'm definitely a living testament to that.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
And that is a very fitting note to end this fabulous interview. Look here, no, man. I want to continue the interview, but we don't have much time. Lord of mercy. Look here, no, man. If you don't know, if you don't really know how much I want to, I mean, no, I want to hear to, you know, but ladies and gentlemen, I have to call it George today. So, Ano, thank you so much for being a wonderful, wonderful guest. And thank you for letting me again into your home. And I wish you all the very best in your endeavors, in your creativity, in your life, in your career, on this journey called life.
It has been an absolute pleasure being here with you. Thank you so much for, just sharing with me today. And it means a lot. So thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. So yes, my friends, so that's our show. So please make sure you tune in to this channel next week for another fabulous interview. But if you want to hear this interview again, you can go onto Spotify or Google Podcasts or anywhere you get your podcasts. All right. But please remember to like, subscribe, and share. All right. Have a wonderful day.